If you want to build a brand new house as of today, Lanes, one of the biggest suppliers in Southeast Queensland, are saying that they cannot give you a timber frame till 2022.
So the big question is this: how are investors like us who weren't born with a silver spoon successfully investing in property to create a passive income and still have a lifestyle now? That is the question. This podcast will give you the answers. I'm George Markowski and welcome to the Positive Property Show. Our mission is to empower 10,000 people to create financial freedom through property using the Markowski method. Join us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's show. George Markowski and Adam here. Now, Positive Property here. Now, if you're watching live, please type in #live just so I know you're here. Thank you so much. And look, a lot of people watch our replays, and I just want to make sure that I know you're watching replays. I do come back and watch your comments. So type in #replay. And hello and welcome. We've got a really good show today. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, George. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Now, we're going live in Australian Property Chat, and we're here to answer your questions. But not only that, we're going live on the Positive Property Show in iTunes and everything else like that. So welcome there as well. So, Adam, we're going to be talking about, you've been in the building trade for a long time, 20 years now.
20 years, yeah. 2001.
2001. You've been in the building trade for quite a while. And the fact of it is you've got a lot of experience, and that's why you're part of our acquisitions team. But what I'd like to do is, I want to do a bit of expose. Now, later on tonight, we're going to be exposing some builders around Australia and what they're doing. Correct?
Yeah.
Right? And we may not be mentioning any names, you never know, but you better stay tuned and listen. But we're going to show you how to stay safe when you're buying a property, and some of the tricks and things builders do and how to avoid the traps. And this is really important because at the end of the day, experience is so important, guys. So if anyone's had any challenges with builders, please type in the comments or any questions, because as we go along, we'll be answering the questions. I'm going to go down and just look at the questions here. And while we do that, we're going to talk about, at the moment, there's only two things that, when it comes to property, there's only one thing that puts property prices up. That's when you've got more demand than supply. That's it, nothing else. Like everything in life, with stocks, if you've got more demand and supply, price go up. You've got less demand, more supply, price go down. With food, with objects, with everything, even with mates. Funny enough, in China, there's a lack of females. So females, there's more demand than supply of females. In Russia, it's the opposite. There's more females than males. Isn't that interesting? So demand-supply ratio is very, very important. And that's what we'll talk about at the moment, because there's a lot of inflation and there's a lot of demand, not a lot of supply. So what's been happening in the forefront? What have the builders been talking about when it comes to supply and different things like that?
Well, what's happening around Southeast Queensland, in particular, is the property market, with all the booms that we've seen recently with the homeowners grant, the interstate migration, and also the mortgages are a lot easier to get now. A lot easier for first home buyers to get a mortgage than what it was. Mm-hmm. So what's really happening is property prices in Southeast, like people with COVID or people throughout the COVID have wanted to move to Queensland. Everyone wants to come to Queensland, live the lifestyle. So now the property demand is just unbelievable up here at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's huge. Now, I've been recently talking about, during COVID, there was a lack of supply. No one was selling. Right?
That's right.
Part of the reason was because people were scared of selling because they thought maybe their prices would have gone down because of COVID. There's a lot of scaremongering. But that didn't actually happen, did it? Properties
the opposite happened.
Exactly, the opposite. Properties went up. And now, post-COVID, we expected a bounce back, because I was talking about this during COVID, and I thought, even myself, I thought, during COVID, there might be a little bit of softening of the market. And I thought we're going to have a V-shaped recovery. Now, V-shaped recovery is when it goes down, hits a point, and bounces straight back up. And a V-shaped recovery is a very, very typical of a strong economy and how it bounces back so strongly. That's what I expected. However, funny enough, we didn't even have a V-shaped recovery. It was more of a just upward spiral of property prices going up. Now, I've seen people in Brisbane, especially, 200 or 300 people waiting at an open inspection.
Yeah. I've seen that many people at an auction on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and it's been crazy. But not only that, rents have gone up, and the rental rates have gone down, and people are struggling to find a property to rent. I know people in Adelaide who actually, they were about to rent a place, the vendor sold it to an investor, no, an occupier, sorry, and then what happened was they ended up in a hotel. They still live the whole family lives in a hotel still today, looking for a property. So out there, it's pretty crazy. And if you look at the immigration, especially now, people from Melbourne and Sydney, places like that, the immigration is crazy. And a lot of people are moving to Queensland. Now, last week, I spoke a little bit about Victoria, right? And I'm going to, while waiting for some questions, I'm going to talk a little bit about Victoria, if you don't mind, because, Dan Andrews, I'm not a big fan of Dan Andrews, just letting you know. I don't think many people are. And look, whether you're a fan or not, doesn't matter. But I do think what he's doing to the state at the moment with the property deals, what Dan Andrews is trying to do, right? He is trying to make property investors and property owners pay for this whole lockdown. Right? Poor Victoria, I really feel sorry for Victorians because, after all those lockdowns, and they're still locked down now, to add insult to injury, this is what they're doing. So Victoria had its lockdown extend for another 7 days, right? And Victoria really has to be wondering when this nightmare will end. What's worse, it comes hot in the heels of a terrible budget, a budget that's really going to hurt the economy and the property sector specifically, right? So when I talk about the budget here, I send all my sympathy to the Victorians. I really feel sorry for them. So I got lots of friends there, and Victoria's, Melbourne's my second home, and yours too, actually, funny enough. And I feel sorry for the Victorians because it's terrible. So what a lot of people call this budget has been called the disaster budget. And, to be brutally honest, I totally agree. And I'll explain why I think it's such a dud for the economy, especially for the property sector. And I'm not being biased, right? Because I'll give Andrew's government credit where it's due, but I can't really. So what's happening here, right? So they're waiving stamp duty on newly completed homes that have been unsold for a year or more, right? They're also extending stamp duty concessions and extending the 50% stamp duty discount on new homes in Melbourne, right? However, a 19% increase on land tax for properties worth between $1.8 to $3 million. On top of Victoria, who's got already has got the highest land tax stamp duty in the country. A 30% increase on land tax for properties over 3 million. 18% increase on stamp duty for properties worth up to 2 million. Then they're adding a windfall gain tax. The extra money that would have been made from rezoning will now be taxed at 50%. So 50%.
Jesus.
And so this is the problem though. Because they're taxing 50%, this could add another $25,000 to the price of a new housing lot because they're giving it away in tax. So looks like the Victorian government is behaving like, a hungry shark and just going in there and trying to rape and pillage the property sector, right? But the problem is these taxes increase will hurt self-funded retirees and deeply impact housing affordability. You know what I mean? So mum and dad investors, they're going to get hit the worst, right? The problem is, the thing is they're not going to sell up because they're going to hit by capital gains, but it's going to really reduce people's financial freedom in Victoria. And what I want to say about this is, one thing, don't put all your eggs in the same basket, all right? A big thing. I've been saying this for a long time, and I've been banging on this about this, and my portfolio is spread all around Australia. And you should never put all your eggs in one basket. You should put them in a 7 o'clock basket. Once that 7 o'clock is full, move to the next basket and keep going along. Because that way you keep yourself spread out, because we don't know who's going to change policies. Now, one government that's very friendly towards housing and immigration has been the Queensland government. They've always been really far forward, the cheapest stamp duty, really good on land tax, really good on everything. Now, a lot of people don't realize, and I've recently talked about cash is trash. And what I mean by cash is trash is if you got money in the bank, you're screwed, right? You really are, you're screwed. If you got money in the bank, you're screwed. And the fact of it is, if you got money in the bank right now, it's going to take you 83 years to double your money. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to have to take a lot of anti longevity pills, anti-dying pills to get there. Yep. Yeah, so there you go. So pretty crazy. So with the inflation that's going on, a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a massive lot of inflation happening. I want you to tell us a little bit about what's happening in the building industry and what's happening with building supplies and costs. Because
Well, I just want to go back a step, George, and just talk about the rental demand just quickly in southeast Queensland.
Thank you. Yes.
So the amount of people who are coming here and also people just moving within the state, there is a lot of people who are just looking for somewhere else to move to, somewhere to live. I've heard of people paying 12 months in advance, people who are offering, $50 to $100 per week more than the asking price. This is just to secure a house for their family. Like, it's something I've never heard of before.
Wow, that's crazy. So the rental demand is just crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So look, so if you're investing in property, you're actually helping people.
You're obviously going to, yeah. But then we go to the next point, what you just touched on, is the issue that we've got with suppliers. So I got some letters here from Master Builders, Lang's Timber, who's one of the biggest timber supply company in the state. And they're saying here, due to the uncertainty and also supply of lead times, they have not got enough access from importers with high demand for timber. Local supporters are just not equipped to pick up the shortfall we're seeing to get orders filled. They go on to say that immediate deliveries so anyone who puts an order in now for a timber frame, for example, from the 31st of May, you will be delayed. They're also saying now, if you put an order in now, they are now scheduling work for 2022. So what that's saying is,
so if you order timber now to build a house,
if you want to build a brand new house as of today, Plains, one of the biggest suppliers in southeast Queensland, are saying that they cannot give you a timber frame till 2022.
Wow. And
there's obviously exceptions. But what I'm saying is just as a norm, as a warning out there, that this is the delay that we've created. Then we move over to the master builders.
Yep.
They've got the headline here, a perfect storm. So basically what they're saying is the sudden surge of the home builder grant, migration, mortgage, as I discussed before, and also early access to the super access scheme. This has created, and also a wet summer, which Queensland's had. This has reduced the days on site, which builders can actually build houses.
Yep.
And is also slowing it down. They say here that they are working hard to find a solution. I don't know what solution they can find, but they're working on a solution.
Wow. You have to. I heard a few solutions, but let's keep going because you were talking about a big builder that you know of. Because you've been in, you're.
Right, yeah. So yeah, as a very close friend of mine who owns one of the larger building companies, he's actually gone and bought himself 100-ton of steel and also a machine to be able to make steel frames because he can't get timber. He needs to continue to build houses. So he has decided to start doing all his houses in steel.
Wow.
That just shows, that's you have to be pretty gutsy to go and buy 100-ton of steel to be able to build houses out of steel from now on because of the shortage of timber.
That is really big. It's
affecting the whole industry.
Yep, affecting the whole industry. Wow, it's huge. And so look, so the point is, what you're saying, it's going to cost more money to build a property.
Yep. George, I heard today that just your kitchen board has gone up 15% since Monday. Yep. Steel's gone up, I think, 35%. And timbers, I don't even know what timbers happen with the timber supply at the moment.
Yep.
But yeah. So just the cost to build a house has gone up since COVID. So
it looks like it's going to go up probably around 30% all up.
It almost has to.
Yeah, and the fact of it is, that means that if you buy a property with materials built before this and it hasn't gone up yet, you could almost make a 20-30% windfall.
Yeah. On the building component, yes, definitely.
Yeah, on the building component, exactly. And the thing is, I mean, with so much demand, it's pushing pressure on price to go up. Like seriously, if I was new to property investing, I'd be a little bit worried now because when do you get in? What happens if you miss this? Because I've an interesting story. Because I've been coaching people for a long time now, for years, and I've been through many booms and corrections and things like that. And what happened was, I remember I had a guy that I was coaching about 10 years ago, and basically he could have afforded to buy 2 properties. And then what happened was he was umming and ahhing and then missed the window. And 3 years later, he couldn't buy anything because he just couldn't get the finance.
Yeah.
Then he's had an opportunity when interest rates went down about a year ago, missed it again, and now he can't get any at all. Again, he's missed it. Now, 10 years, he's had nothing, 0. Great guy, earned good money, but just didn't quite get that combination right. And the people don't understand, you've got to get the combination right and get in there while you can. And look, I always say to people, never rush into buying a property because you should really do due diligence, get the right mentor, get the right team around you to do it. But saying that, because this massive unprecedented boom, don't be slow either. You've got to have a balance, no point running and falling over. But if you're going to sit on the couch for the next 10 years, you're going to miss out on the property boom.
And just to add to that, George, just sorry to interrupt, money's cheap at the moment. Like you can go to the bank and get a loan for in the twos. I've heard early 3s, 2%. Money's cheap. Like I'm sure you remember when loans were 14, 15.
Yes, I do. Now I'm going to try to see if I can see in these comments because because we're going to a different platform tonight. I'm having a few challenges having a look at the comments, but I'd like to see the comments and try to answer people's questions about this. So I'm going to go into positive property and just have a quick look. So there we are. We're right here. We've got quite a few comments already. Oops. But it won't let me look at them without pressing play on this, but I'm going to have a look right now. We've got quite a few comments there. Because what I want to do is, if anyone's got any building comments, please let us know because it's pretty interesting. So anyway, that's what's been happening in Queensland. And the thing is, you and I were talking earlier, and you and I, we've known each other for over a decade now, I'd say.
I was actually part of your wedding, George.
Exactly. So we've known each other for a while, and it's really good having the inside scoop on developers and property stuff like that. What I want to do is, a lot of people don't realize some of the research that goes into what we do, because there's one thing, one of the most important things is pinpointing hotspots. And when you pinpoint hotspots, there's leading and lagging indicators. And what a lagging indicator is, and this is what the property magazines, those experts do most of the time. They're like, oh, Gladstone went up for 5 years in a row. It's done average 20%. You should buy here, right? And a lot of developers, builders, and property companies say that. But I call that a lagging indicator. And what I mean by that is it happened in the past. It's not really going to tell you what's going to happen in the future. But more than likely, if it's gone up 5 years in a row, it's probably not going to go up anymore. And then there's leading indicators. And leading indicators are something like average vendor discount. See, when average vendor discounts start going down month by month, that means suddenly the price of them start going up. Because when you've got a large average vendor discount in the area, it's going to be bad for the area. But when it's low, it's really good. And out of the 16,000 suburbs, they call me the John West of property for a reason. Out of those 16,000 suburbs, we only choose 100 per state. And that's it. And we call it the top 100 for a reason, because it's top 100. Now, a lot of people wonder how to buy undervalued properties. And this is the way to do it, because what you're doing is looking at leading indicators. You buy these properties in the top 100, and they're totally undervalued because they're about to go up. And a good example is that property you showed us recently. I'm not going to mention the area that one of our clients got, and it had 65,000 equity in it from day one.
Instantly.
Yeah. Now that was an undervalued property. And even though it was good value, it was undervalued because it was the top 100 and it instantly went up, which is pretty powerful,
And also the rent that was quoted, it was over $100 per week more than what you quoted on the rental.
Yeah, I know. Look, what I've been finding now of a lot of our members, and as we've seen, is they'll buy a property, and let's say it takes 3 or 4 months to actually end up owning the property. By the time they get there, the rent and the property have gone up because the market's so up. Yeah, which is pretty exciting because the largest growing group of migration in all of Australia is Southeast and Queensland. Huge, very big, very big. And it's not going to get any smaller. And at the moment, we've got no overseas immigration. So all the fuel is people moving from state to state and moving.
Well, I also think this latest COVID lockdown in Melbourne, this is the 4th time these poor, I'm from Melbourne, so I love Melbourne. This is the 4th time these guys have been locked down. It's winter. They'll be sitting there going, what are we doing? Why are we still in Melbourne? 4th time lockdown, cold, wet, miserable Melbourne. I think people might see, make another change to move up to the Sunshine State.
Yeah, well, look, this is the deal. As I was talking about what Melbourne and Victoria are doing, right? Those taxes are going to result in higher rents.
Plus taxes, yeah.
Right? So, that more people work in the property in Australia than mining and manufacturing combined. Did you know that? And property employs 25% of Victorians.
Wow.
Right? And what does the property industry rely on? Development, construction, new housing, maintained levels of employment. Yeah, right? Really. But what do you think is going to happen to Victoria now? I really think investing in Victoria might not be the best idea at the moment because we don't know how these new taxes are going to affect Victoria. And seriously, the land tax on that is going to be pretty bad. So I feel that Victoria, one, they've had all these lockdowns, which affected the economy pretty badly.
Definitely.
And now they're trying to take money from the property sector, which is 50% of its taxes and 25% of its employment. It's going to be a tough one.
Madness.
Yeah. So I think this could actually derail the federal governments to reduce the current unemployment rate to the force. Right? And businesses may start packing up and leaving Victoria and going to sunny Queensland. Right? So that's what I'm thinking. So I reckon all this happening in Victoria doesn't look good in Victoria. That's one place I'll probably take off my hit list for now.
Yeah.
And just wait for a while. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and especially now what you're saying is one, people are, because Victoria is such a beautiful place. There's so many beautiful restaurants and beautiful culture and things like that. But now people have had enough of all these lockdowns. Mm. Hopefully the lockdowns have done some good. I don't know. There's a bit of a big debate on that, the lockdown thing. And, I've been getting a lot of hate mail lately about lockdowns because I'm in between, I'm not rushing to getting a vaccine, but I'm also don't think that COVID's fake. I'm in between.
Yeah.
And both sides are going, George, you're an idiot. They're going to put microchips in you. Oh no, COVID's going to kill you. And both extremes, I don't believe. I don't think COVID's going to kill everyone. Obviously it's not. And I don't think we're going to get microchips either.
Well, I've had my COVID. I've had both of my COVID jabs.
Oh, you have? How did you feel? How did it go?
I wasn't overly fun. The first one was fine, it's perfect. And the second one knocked me for about 24 hours, but that was about it.
Yep. Yeah, COVID's one of those things where, I met this guy off Gumtree that was buying something off me, and he's got a cousin that's in the Marines apparently, who had COVID. Now he can't run around the block because he's inflamed his lungs that much, which really sucked.
Wow.
Yeah.
24 hours after I had my second, I felt pretty much normal again.
Wow, there you go. You look very healthy. So
I had the Pfizer one, so I was lucky enough that my wife works in the medical world. So
yes, I've heard the Pfizer one's much better than AstraZeneca, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I've had other mates who've had AstraZeneca, and the first one knocked them, the second one they were fine.
Okay. Yep. There you go. Interesting.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So look, so it's very interesting what's happening in up in Queensland at the moment with the whole immigration and things like that. And I think until we got interstate immigration, it's going to be one of the states Southeast Queensland that's going to benefit the most out of this big property boom at the moment. And a lot of the government spending is going there as well.
Especially if Brisbane gets the Olympic Games.
Yes. How does that looking at the moment?
Looking pretty good from all the news reports that I've seen.
Yeah, well, interesting fact is Barcelona property prices doubled after they got the Olympics, doubled. When South Korea got the Olympics in Seoul, property prices went up 700%.
Oh, shit.
I know, like crazy. Sydney, they doubled as well after the Olympics. And Homebush, for example, Homebush was a real crap area, nowhere. And now look at it, you know what I mean? So look, having Olympics does make a big difference.
Yes.
And I hope we get it. I do hope we get the Olympics. I think it'd be great. Because they banned the Tokyo Olympics, didn't they? They stopped Tokyo, yeah. Was that supposed to be this year or something, or last year?
I thought it's happening. I'm pretty sure it's still happening.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm going to Google this.
Please fact check me on that one.
Yeah, because I haven't looked at it for a while. Let's have a look.
I think half our athletes are over.
Okay, Tokyo Olympics chief rules out delay despite COVID fears.
Yeah, it's still going. We've got athletes over there now.
Okay, Tokyo 2020, but it's 21 at the moment, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm confused.
It was delayed.
Oh, right.
COVID.
There you go. Yeah, it was delayed because of COVID. Yeah. Yeah, well, we had a big thing here in COVID at the moment because, Victoria's under lockdown. Then Collingwood are coming to play. And someone in the government said, well, we're going to give them, we'll let them in, but if the ball comes towards you, just duck, don't touch it. Like
the dirty Victorians. And they were saying this morning you should wear gloves on your hand.
Yeah.
If you want to touch the ball.
Like, I don't know. I think it's a little bit silly, if you ask me,
Very much so.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's only 60 people in Victoria who've got COVID. So the chance of the football players having it, there's like 5 or 6 million people in Victoria. 60, the chance, you've got more chance of winning the lotto.
Yeah.
There you go. So guys, if you've got any questions, please go ahead and now ask. I'm going to go in here now because this is it. Let's have a look here. Let's have a look at question. Wow, that's amazing. They're watching and we haven't got any questions. So
we can make our own up, George.
Let's make up our own. Actually, I know Belinda had some questions for me. So I'm going to ask Belinda to give me some questions right now because she's always does the question and answer. Do you have any questions? I'm going to ask her about that. So there we go. So what's the weather like up there in Queensland at the moment?
I put a jumper on today.
That's very unusual.
But I also had the air conditioning on in the car, so it was a bit of a false economy.
Right. Yes.
Hard to
Christina loves having the heater on all the time, so it's always like hot here.
At your place.
Yeah, totally. I always turn it off. Then when I'm interstate, she puts it on full bore. It's the middle of winter. I FaceTime her. She's in her underwear. In the middle of winter. And I'm like, you got the heater on, turn it off.
Is there anything else in Southeast Queensland you'd like to cover, George? Like anything that you'd like to cover?
Yeah. Look, my biggest thing is so I'll go for these questions in a minute. I've got these questions afterwards, but the one thing I want to talk about is lack of properties to find. You know what I mean? Because quality property is very, very hard to find. They're going so quick. Like,
Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of developers up here who are asking for basically unconditional finance, 5 or 10% deposits before they even look. I've heard deposits up to $5,000. It used to be $1,000 just to get your foot in the door. We had a ballot on another land estate in Burleigh last weekend.
Yep.
And they actually put numbers into one of those rolly balls and you pull out your number, and if you're one of the lucky 5 or 7 blocks of land, you were lucky enough to buy a block of land. You had to sign a contract and pay the deposit on that day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
How crazy is that?
unbelievable. Like the market is just unbelievable.
Well, look, I know real estate agents aren't even returning my calls. And
Uh,
like, luckily, you know a lot of developers and builders personally. You got
Yeah.
their mobile phone numbers, and we've got an inside thing, because I always talk to people and say, look, you got realestate.com and domain, right?
Yeah.
And I call that real estate porn,
Yeah.
right? Because people look at that and jerk off and look at that stuff. But really, at the end of the day, by the time property gets there, one, it's probably not that good if it's still on there. But the properties we get way before they get on there, right? And the challenge is, I mean, there's a lot of builders that put in those loss leaders and what's happening to all that. They're always putting on these fake properties to try to.
It comes back to the old, it's just marketing, really. Like you see some builders advertising a house for, I don't know, 149,000, rah, rah, rah. And by the time you actually go in there, sign up to build the house, you're paying another 100,000 more. It's just all market leading sort of.
Yes. And
putting leads out to try to generate leads so they can convert them into sales.
Yeah. And unfortunately confuses a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because, it's really annoying because then people go, oh yeah, we've got this property, then we saw something online and it's cheaper, but it's not real. Like, it's a bit like, that photo you saw on Tinder may not be real until you see the real thing, right?
Well, there's a bit of a joke in the industry we sort of have and say, would you like a roof? Would you like a walls with that?
Exactly.
It's not what you think. You're not buying the full house. What you see on the photo with the grand big doors and windows, it's not that at all.
Yep. This illustration purposes only.
Yeah.
But the thing's completely different, right? They call that puffery. They call that puffery.
Yeah.
Legally they call it puffery, and apparently, you can do a bit of puffery to get your product sold.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions here, which I'm going to read out. Okay. So my wife wants to buy a principal home first before investing. I've talked to her about rent vesting. She can't see and thinks it will take 10 years or more. Okay. So this is a big one, right? And a lot of people ask the question, should I rent or should I buy my dream home or should I rent? I get this question all the time. And the fact of it is, this is the deal. There's 16,000 suburbs in Australia. And out of those 16, there's only several hundred that are any good at the top at any good given time. Let's say 1,000, right? So the chance of you picking one of those 16,000 that is going to go up in value is very small. Two, Robert Kiyosaki says this, and he says it for a reason, because, he says that your property you live in is not an investment. It's actually a liability because it doesn't make you any money.
Yep.
Now, do I practice what I preach? Because people might be saying, George, you're saying all this about rent investing, but you bought this $4 million beach house, right, on the beach. Well, let me explain. I earned it. I've got the money, I earned it, so I want to do it. So until you earn it, you should really rent vest. When you got the cash to splash, I suggest you spend it whatever you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. However, when you're accumulating and growing your money, you'd be stupid to buy a owner-occupier first. What I did, I rent vested. And you visited me many times when I was renting on the beach. And my landlord was subsidizing my property. I was living in a $2 million property, paying $50,000 a year. My landlord was paying $150,000 a year for me to live there.
Yeah.
Right? Now, who's the stupid one? He was, not me. Right? And that's the point, because what you can do is if you go to a nice area, you can rent really cheap. Actually, I've got a graph here. It's interesting. I want to have a look at this graph. So proportion of properties where monthly mortgage repayments are estimated to be cheaper than rent. Okay. So in Sydney, right, mortgage repayments are estimated cheaper than rent in 2.1% of properties. So renting in Sydney is the best thing you can do because the return is so bad. In Melbourne, 3.3% of properties. It's 3.3%, right? So the only place is Darwin, where it's 80%. It's actually cheaper to own than rent, right? But most cities, that's what you're talking about. And when you're talking 2.1%, you can go to Sydney and rent a beautiful property, and the landlord is losing money like crazy. right? And then what you can do is you can rent and then buy investment properties that make you money. Because if you buy a property at the moment, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're not going to be able to afford much. But, because if I buy, I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I wanted to buy a property to live in around 440,000. Let's say 500,000. I'll get the rough numbers. 500,000. If I wanted to buy a property to live in, that was going to cost me about $650 a week. Right?
Principal and interest.
Yep. Okay. Don't worry about that. We're recording the meeting, obviously, for podcast. So anyway, now if I bought that same property, right, with our strategy, because obviously positive property uses a special strategy where, a lot of people talk about negative gearing and positive gearing.
Yeah.
Right? Now, positive gearing is shit. I'll tell you why. Because to get positive gearing, you need to go in a really bad area. You're not going to get a positive return, or out in the country. Negative gearing is not good either because you're losing money every week, and you shouldn't be losing money every week. So what I've done is I've created a hybrid, and I call this negative gearing, positive cash flow. That's what we do. So we lose money on paper. This is what the wealthy investors do that the struggling investors fail to do. And this is really important for everyone watching and listening, is you need to be losing money on paper, but not in real life. You should be making money and putting money in your pocket every week. That's a smart investment. Every time I buy investment, I put money in my pocket every week. So if I bought that $500,000 property with my system, I'd be putting $120 in my pocket every week. And I'd be owning that property. And in 7 to 10 years, that property's going to double. I'm going to make $500,000. While you have got your own occupier for $500,000 and you're paying $750 a week and you're going broke and you're eating juju beans and you're not going out and you're getting stressed and fighting with your family, right? Now, the deal is, once I've got a few investment properties making me this money, I get one, I'm making 120, get another one, there's 240, get another one, 360. Well, guess what? If I buy an occupier, it's only cost me 400 now. I can afford it and still keep buying. So you don't have to give up your lifestyle forever. But when you're starting out, really seriously, have some discipline and buy an investment property and do something that your future self and your family and everyone else will thank you for the rest of their lives. And the fact of it is, property's changed my life completely. It really has. And it's changed a lot of our members. We've got thousands of members around Australia. And one thing I can say is they're extremely successful, they're extremely grateful, which is great. And which is exciting. But that's because they've got the discipline to do what we tell them to do. And so this person, please get your wife to have a little bit of discipline, because the pain of discipline is a lot less than the pain of regret. That's that question. Next question. How much super to buy a property? Okay. So apparently it's about 180,000. However, Adam and I are not super experts, and we can't legally talk about super. So I'm just saying that from my experience, about 180, but it depends with circumstances. And I suggest that what you do is talk to a super specialist who's licensed to talk about this sort of stuff, because I'm not. Okay, next. Really want to get investment property, yet I have a house slightly negative in Craigburn, Victoria. Being told I should sell before I invest, yet that might take 6 months to sell. Okay.
So the question, George, just before I know Craigieburn quite well.
Right.
So the question I want to answer is, when did they buy it and what did they pay for it?
Exactly. That's the most important thing.
Because Craigieburn has had a really big increase in price in the last sort of 4 to 7 years. Craigieburn's gone up a lot.
There you go.
So maybe it's hit its peak and it's time to get out. But I don't know. That was my 2 cents worth.
The thing is, and thank you, that's awesome that you got the knowledge. And one thing I really respect about you on the ground every day looking at property, you know property really well. And the fact of it is, what I always say is, it might take 6 months. No, it won't take 6 months. The market's fast at the moment, it's really fast. However, when you want to get rid of a property, first what I'd do is I'd actually do a complete report on the property, find out where it's in the property market, and unless it's at 10, 11, 12 o'clock, I ain't selling it. That's one thing. You've got to find out where it is. Because even if it had some growth, it might get some more growth. So I wouldn't suggest selling until you do that. 9 times out of 10, I always suggest don't sell. because you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. You know, people that made lots of money at a property, they've got lots of property. That's why they've made money. Two, if you want to invest, don't sell the property, use the equity and start buying. And you can sell as well at the same time, but do get involved in the property. If you wait 6 months, you've probably missed the window in southeastern Queensland. And then the money you made in Craigburn, you're gonna have to pay that extra money and make nothing. You know, let's say you made 200,000 on your property, and you wait 6 months, you've lost 100 grand in your new one. You've only made 100. But if you use the equity, you keep that 200, make that other 100, you've made 300. Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. Other advice, say, don't sell as I have equity in Craigburn and my principal home, and I don't think the banks will let me do both. What's your advice? Oh, there you go.
Can you read that again, George?
Okay. Oh, the other advice, say, don't sell as I have equity in Craigburn and my principal home, and I don't think the banks will let me do both. What's your advice? My advice is I would certainly look at the whole picture and try to use equity. The banks may not need to do it directly, but if you get the right coach and you get the right team around you, you can always work it out and make it work. You know, 70% of people that join our program actually couldn't get the finance. That's why they joined. You know, we had one couple, they tried to go to the bank. One lady was a receptionist, the other guy worked at Foodland. Great guy, great couple, and they couldn't get a property. We helped them get 3 more properties. And the bank said no to one, right? But it's all about knowing how to do it. Okay. Watching George now, will the building storage impact our new build?
The building shortage?
Shortage, yeah, yes. Depends. Could.
When did the build start? Yeah.
Yeah, so look, this is the deal. Because Positive Property, we're a buyers group, right? And this is one thing we need to explain to people. We're a buyers group and we buy a lot of properties. You know, we're doing 3 or 4 every week. So because of that, we get lots of opportunities other people don't. We get priority, we get VIP access, and we get access to properties that have been built with the old building price, not the new ones. So, but we don't know how long we're gonna have access to these things for much longer. We don't know.
But George, just to fill in a bit more here, if this client has already started the build or the orders are already in the system?
They haven't even joined the program yet.
Okay.
Yes. They haven't even joined the program. They're asking, they've been talking to
way back.
Yeah, way back. They haven't even joined the program yet. And the fact of it is, look, and one thing about being part of a buyers group and the safety numbers, they always say the safety numbers. And I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Godfather, and the Godfather's got a stick and he goes, break the stick, and the son breaks it, right? And then he gets 5 sticks together and goes, break that. And he's like, ugh, I can't do it. That analogy has got a lot of truth. And when you go and buy a property on your own, without a team of experts around you, on your own, from a developer or a builder, you're one person. And these builders doing 700, 2,000, 4,000 properties a year, you're just another number. It's very hard for you to get what you need to get and fix things, right? But when you've got a group like ours of thousands of members, they listen. Yeah. Especially when you've got their mobile number and you can call the owner. We don't deal with sales managers and go through that channel. We go direct to the top. You know, very different. That's a big advantage, isn't it?
Yeah, or definitely, George. Sorry, you're letting me in there. But yeah, like it makes a big difference. Like if you're just a number with a standard builder, people aren't gonna. They're just a number, like you just said. But with us, we've got a lot of pull with the owners, with developers. We can pick up the phone and get things done. If you want anything resolved, we can resolve it.
Exactly. And the thing is, I mean, at the moment, there might be a bit of a boom, but that's going to slow down sooner or later. And they're going to need us anyway, because we've got plenty of members that buy property. And that's just the fact. I mean, look, you know, the fact of it is, you know, developers, when they're looking where they're going to build, you know, I'm one of the go-to experts for that. You know what I mean? And that's the fact of it. And, you know, a lot of people ask me about my top 100 list, and I don't make my list public because it's our IP. It's the one thing that separates us from everyone else. Because
it's also worth a lot of money too, George.
Well, I mean, how much money do I charge developers just for this list?
You can yeah, it's almost unlimited, really. What's charged, yeah.
Yeah, but normally we charge $50,000 for this list, and people are happy to pay as developers. However, we don't want to share it with people unless they're the right people and everything else like that. So look, it's been really good having you on. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the private group and give them some private coaching in a minute.
Okay.
But guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been really good. And remember, I'm going to be coming back and checking the comments. So if you got any other questions, get in there, do it. What we're doing is Melbourne, you guys are in lockdown. So what we've done is we're actually doing a 14-day challenge next week, right? And this is 14 days where I'm going to hand hold you and actually show you everything that I've learned over the last 20 years. I'm going to show you how to protect yourself, how to profit and how to prosper from this whole big real estate boom. And basically what you do at the end of these 14 days is you do a bit of homework. I give you a mission. You do the mission. You go home, do the mission. It's like 20 minutes to an hour each day. And then at the end, you create $1 million game plan. And this will serve you for the rest of your life. So if anyone's interested in the 14-day challenge, type in #challenge. My team will reach out to you and actually let you show you the details about that. Guys, listen to us on YouTube. Please press subscribe. And if you're on the podcast, hello and thank you. And Adam, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Hopefully we had something useful and people had a good takeaway from tonight.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon, mate. Cheers.
Thank you, George.
Thank you for listening. I'm grateful for all our listeners around the world. If you found this podcast valuable, please share with someone that might find this useful, and please join our tribe of purpose-driven investors, increasing income and impact in our Facebook group, Positive Property. Please note, with a multi-million-dollar property portfolio and a passive income, I've become incredibly successful in investing in property. The fact of it is, however, many people may find investing in property challenging. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of hard work. However, becoming educated to make an informed decision and having the right advisors gives you the tools you need to succeed. The most important part of this formula, however, is to actually take action and apply that knowledge. It is important to understand the information I share is of a general nature only and is not taking into account your unique circumstances. If you're considering investing in any asset class, you need to seek the advice of an independent professional advisor who will be able to look at your specific situation. Be sure your advisor has actually achieved the kind of results you're seeking. Many won't have, so beware. We've taken great care putting those educational resources together. We'd be surprised if you didn't find any errors or omissions. If you do, our legal team says we have to say we're not responsible for those. In fact, as with all things, even your success, we're not responsible. That responsibility always has and always will come down to you and the actions you take. We're passionate about supporting you in that process and helping you increase your ability to create wealth, live the life you desire, and provide all the things you dream of for you and your family.